Hey, it's Camo with the Nashville Access Facebook show presented by Solis North Gulch Apartments, where taste matters. I don't know that I'm going to get a lot of words in today because I have three ladies here from Think Country in the UK and they talk. So I'm not sure if I'll be doing a lot of talking, but I'll set things up for you. Hope you enjoy the show. Come on, we'll get them in here and introduce everybody. Annette Gibbons.
Hi, so I'm Annette, I'm the founder of Think Country.
My name is Amy Westney and I do photos and write reviews, interviews for Think Country.
Patti McClintic, staff writer for Think Country.
Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for inviting us, yeah. I flew all the way out here especially, obviously.
Especially for this, yeah. Our budget really covered that.
Yeah. First class and everything, you know.
Yeah, now we'll have people asking for that. Tell us about Think Country.
Back in the early 90s, we had CMT in the UK, and I was flicking through one day. John Michael Montgomery came on the screen, and I was like, hello. Hello. Who are you?
Just so you know, you weren't the only one that thought that.
Yes. And I just found this love for country music. And I started coming to Nashville. So next year is my 25th anniversary of coming out to Nashville.
Wow.
So it was a bit of a guilty pleasure to like country music in the UK. Everybody thought we liked Billy Ray Cyrus and sang Achy Breaky Heart and Line Dance.
Well, when I moved over there in 2001, if I said country music, everybody said, oh, hillbilly.
Country and Western.
Yes, country and Western and hillbilly music, and yeah.
So I kind of had this love for it, and I decided I wanted to write about a concert that I'd been to. And there wasn't very many websites, and the ones that were there, I didn't particularly like. So I thought, hey, I'll set my own one up. So it started off just me writing a few reviews, and then had a couple of friends. And then a gentleman called Bill McClintic contacted me on Facebook and said, I'm a photographer. I go to Nashville. Can I get some pictures for you? And it's just blown up from there. So we're very much a global country music website now. Last count, about 55% of our readers are from America,
Wow.
which was surprising. But we have reviewers in all over England, but also in Nashville, Florida, and we're getting reviewers out in Australia as well now.
That's
So
incredible.
the numbers are just going through the roof, and I'm very proud of it.
For somebody that just started by liking John Michael Montgomery.
And I had a full circle. I interviewed his son earlier in the year, and I'm like, wow, full circle.
Yeah. Now, Amy, how did you get sucked into this little party?
In fact, if I
Cadillac
remember
3.
rightly, it was Cadillac 3, and then we hadn't met at the time, and then we're actually in Nashville, and we met in Nashville, and it blossomed from there. And here I am, still here.
I had a +1 to the CMA Awards, so I'm like, who should I take for my +1? And Amy's like, well, I'm in Nashville. And we've been a duo ever since.
Yeah.
Now, you're also an artist.
Yes.
And you just moved to Nashville, so Nashville is now home for you.
It is. That sounds weird. Yeah, it is, yeah.
So you're bringing a unique perspective to
Right.
things, because you're also seeing it from an artist's point of view.
Yes, I definitely, when I review, I feel like I definitely look at it in a different point of view, because I know what it's
Absolutely.
like to be on the stage. Okay, you know, I've not played in front of 50,000 people
Yet.
but you know, I know that feeling to be there, and I feel like because of that, I do take a different standpoint from when I'm writing things, because I try and do it more from like the artist perspective and get like a real rounded thing rather than just an audience member.
Do you ever give them kind of a break because you understand what it's like to have an off night? Or
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
But you know, within reason.
your last album was great. I can't wait to hear new music.
Thank you.
That was great. Now, Patti, we've known each other for a while before the whole Think Country thing came.
Yes,
Because we grew up relatively close to each other.
we did, because I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
And I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario, so it was just a quick drive along the QE to
Exactly,
the 90.
exactly. So yeah, it's strange how it's a very small world.
Yeah.
It is, but I got roped into Think Country. kind of in a strange way. My husband, Bill, as Annette said,
Who is here? He's
he's hiding. He's
behind
camera shy,
Yeah.
but he's better behind a camera. He was taking photos for Annette, and at some point, I don't really remember the situation exactly, but Annette might. I guess somebody needed, or somebody was supposed to do something and write something, and I don't know if they dropped off or dropped the ball or whatever. And,
It was Amy.
it was probably Amy, I'm sure. And Annette had asked Bill, well, does Patti write? And he said, well, she can, and that's how it happened. I guess I was given a small task, just something easy, and I guess I passed that test.
I mean, one of your first articles was Mel Haggard, so I don't think it was a small task. I think it was quite a large task.
Let's talk about
I think I went from that one, and then I think I got thrown right into the fire, and I was given the Randy Travis tribute show at Bridgestone, which was like 32 plus artists, and I really wanted to make sure that I didn't mess that one up, because Randy and his wife were going to be sitting right on the stage watching all of these artists sing one of his songs, and I was nervous because I thought, if I mess this up, somebody's going to call me out because he's a legend. So I really, really worked my butt off to make sure that I didn't mess that one up. And
now, when she says she works her butt off, I've never known anybody research so much. If you've read anything that Patti's written, you'll know she is an amazing writer.
Mm-hmm.
And so much so, I was sitting there one morning and I had this email and it said, Mary Travis.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, who's she? Didn't even think of me. Sitting there in England, didn't know who it was, and it was Randy's wife emailing to say thank you for such an amazing review that Patti had written.
Wow.
So of course I'm like, I need to let Patti know. Call these two, nobody's answering their phones. I'm Facebook messaging, calling them, and when Patti did find out, I mean, I think there was a few tears, wasn't there?
I couldn't even read it. I had to have Bill read it. I couldn't do it myself. I was so overwhelmed that had happened. And it was a couple weeks after the actual review came out. I guess somebody had given it to Randy's daughter, who then passed it on to Randy and his wife, and then they emailed Annette, and well, there was, I think, a bottle or two of wine involved after that. Yes, I'm probably on both sides of the pond.
Now, you did an interview with me.
Yes, I did.
And I have to say, you ask a ton of questions to get the angle right.
I do.
And there's me who asks absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well, you do a great job. We both, and
come at it from different ways, yeah.
I mean, we are so lucky. I mean, I have great writers all over the place, but everybody will just say, have you read Patti's piece? And you read it. Even my mum says, I read it, I feel like I was there. And she sells herself short, so we are extremely lucky to have her as part of the team. And really, her and Bill very much look after the Nashville side for me. I mean, I get out here probably 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah, you're
these
a bit
guys,
of a junkie.
Yeah.
You have a habit.
I have a habit. It's been going on a long time. But when we started Think Country, our tagline is bringing country closer,
Right.
and that was the whole point. That in the UK, we didn't have very much access to country music at the time, so we were bringing it closer. We were bringing stories from America, we were bringing music from Nashville, and we very much stick to that, but we really do get close. I mean, some of the artists we cover, pretty much they become friends because you get to talk to them, and especially we cover a lot of up-and-coming artists, because you can read about your Luke Bryans and your Keith Urbans anywhere, and of course, yes, we cover them, but our passion is these up-and-coming artists. It's just so nice to introduce them to a whole new sort of, hundreds of thousands of friends.
We have kind of a similar ethos in that respect. I use the word ethos in a sentence.
I'm going to use it later.
Oh, man, I need royalties.
I'll give you credit.
because Nashville and the UK especially have become so drawn together, and now British Airways direct flights, it seems even closer.
Yeah.
But we've found that people in the UK not only want to know about the music of Nashville, and that's all kinds of music, but also want to know about real estate and lifestyle things. And
it's funny, so this week that I'm out here, normally I'm out here for a festival or a seminar. This week there isn't that much going on music-wise, so actually we're doing a tour of Jack Daniels later today down in Lynchburg to be able to take back and show the people in the UK. We're doing the Walk Eat tour in Nashville, and we're interviewing some really cool people. So we're interviewing Leslie Fran from CMT. We're interviewing somebody who looks after VIP for Florida Georgia Linehouse, Luke's Bar. So we really want to interview people that have different things to do with Nashville, because you say it's not just music, it's sports, it's food, it's the lifestyle.
Yeah, and they can't get enough of it. And what I'm finding too is there's a fascination here with UK artists, and Amy, you'll find that out, especially just because you sound different.
I mean, and
That's so good.
I think the country music scene in the UK is really blossoming, and I'm sure you probably know 20 years ago, UK country artists just tried to sound like they were American.
Not even 20 years ago. I mean,
I was being
probably
kind, but yeah.
As recent as 10 years ago.
Whereas now, British country music is its own genre. There is, there's some great British artists out there.
I remember talking to Bob Harris. I did an interview with him for our podcast, and he was talking about how country has evolved, and especially the British country, and saying that it's more pop leaning, but it's not the same pop country that you get here. And the Shires are a great example of that. And Amy, you've got a sound that's completely different, and people are kind of fascinated with that.
And music festivals as well. We have so many country music festivals now. I mean, we've had Buckle and Boots.
Right.
So this year we had William Michael Morgan came over. Last year they had Morgan Evans. In a couple of weeks we've got Dixie Fields, a brand new festival in Essex. Shame the Essex country girls there,
So
unfortunately.
it'll be a field full of women wearing white.
Oh!
No,
yes.
And say,
I'm not bothered.
In it, mate.
Essex is well.
Careful now.
Essex.
I'm not from Essex.
We all love Essex. We're not. Yeah.
I mean, they were at one point going to have somebody from The Only Way is Essex, but she pulled out at the last moment. But they've got.
That's probably not the first time that phrase has been used.
But they have Lauren Elena headlining. And who else do they have? It's Holloway Road there, who are great.
We've had them on the
UK,
show
they're
before,
absolutely great
Jackson
guys.
Line, who are actually my old band.
Yeah.
Who I was in a band with them for a while, and they're fantastic. Definitely, if they get over to Nashville.
It's great seeing this, and there are a ton of American artists who, for whatever reason, can't find their niche here. They can't find, and they're finding huge success in the UK.
The one that I always think is surprising, Cadillac 3.
Yeah,
Huge
incredible.
in the UK.
I mean, all incredible songwriters.
But I mean, they come and they sell out every single show, and they've been doing that for a few years now. You'll find Brothers Osborne are coming over more and more.
And they have a UK connection.
Yes, with Lucy Silvers.
Lucy Silvers.
But there's a local band here called Royal South.
Yeah. We're going to be having them on the show.
So Glenn is actually from Essex, but I think they might even be bigger in the UK than they are here. They tour a couple of times a year now and sell out every single thing. I mean, their new music, I'm not sure if you've heard it, it's fantastic.
Saw them at CMA Fest. They played the Spotlight stage.
Yes.
And we've got somebody in the UK now, Zoe, who is originally from Australia but now lives in Glasgow. She's going to be covering some things for us over in the UK.
Fantastic.
So it's just great how this is all coming together. Are you learning to translate things well?
I'm getting so good. I know so much British English now.
What's your favourite word? Knackered?
Knackered. I like knackered. I like shattered. You know, I mean, I you know what? It's just a quick story. Annette told me not to talk, so but I'm going to it.
That was when I
I'm so good at British English that I actually managed to get myself a free drink with a fake British accent in Nashville. I did, and Annette was there to witness it.
Are you starting to put the U's in words like color?
Well, only when it's appropriate. when it's gonna get me something, sure. You bet. And I did get that free drink, and then we walked away, and Annette said, "That was the worst fake British accent I have ever heard." She said, "There's not a region anywhere in the UK that they have that
But she
dialect."
got free wine.
Yeah, but maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was so bad they felt sorry for you.
Yeah.
Like, let's just give her a
It
drink.
was top shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just saying.
I have no words.
Neither did she, except for to tell me that it was terrible.
The one thing that we find interviewing so many artists out here is that how one artist will lead you to another artist, that will lead you to another artist, and how very favourite, and I'm sure
Not here though, this is a dead end. You come here, it's just nothing.
yeah, our very favourite interview, and I think Patti would probably agree with me when we interviewed Ashley McBride.
Yeah.
Oh, that was like the domino effect.
Yeah, you are, and this is not going to sound right, but you're really like goofy for Ashley McBride.
Do you not think
Because she's fabulous.
I mean, I reference her a lot when I talk, because we get a lot of female artists on the show, and it always comes up that these incredible songwriters are getting squat for radio airplay here.
Yeah, and it's such a shame. But from interviewing her, we met a lady called Sharon Hackett, who wrote on one of her other songs on her album, and she's an amazing artist based here in Nashville, and she actually came out and did a house concert at Patti's house. We call it Patio McClintic. Actually, Amy has played on the Patio McClintic stage as well.
Yes,
But she was, she's a fantastic artist. And that day, and I'd like to mention, that day there was a young girl there called Ava Page. 13 or 14, she got up and sang. She could have sung anything she wanted. She sang Southern Babylon, I believe.
She did. There's a deep cut on Ashley McBride's album called, and this is just part of how the domino effect of our interview with Ashley McBride, which was prior to her releasing her big album, Girl Going Nowhere.
Which is killer.
It is killer, and which, I mean,
as far as I'm concerned, it should have been album of the year.
it should have been. It should have been.
Yeah.
But Southern Babylon on that album was co-written with Tommy Collier, another who it led to, in addition to Shelley Hackett. But Tommy Collier, when I also then reviewed that album when it came out, and I thought that cut was the best track on the album. That was my personal opinion. And Tommy Collier then got a hold of me and said, "Hey, would you want to listen to my demo?" And so then I reviewed that. Well, a while later, Tommy Collier sent me a message and said, "Hey, you have to look at this video. It's this young girl, she's like 13 years old, and she's doing a cover of Southern Babylon." Now, Southern Babylon is a really dark, deep song. It's kind of not what you would expect any 13-year-old girl to go looking for. And there she was doing a cover of it on YouTube, and it was Ava Page, and you can take it from there.
So she came and sang, but this week we found out that she got diagnosed with leukemia.
Yeah,
So Ava, we love you, and
We do.
if you see the amount of love that's poured out, I mean, I heard today that she actually had contact from a couple of big artists, Ashley being one of them, just reaching out to her. So she's a young girl that to me, people like her are the future of Nashville. So
She's
Ava,
an
get better. And that's what we
amazing
want.
phenom of a songwriter. I interviewed her, and I was just blown away at. She is not your typical. At the time, she had just turned 14. You interview a teenager of that age, and you ask them questions about, who do you listen to, what type of music, and no matter how many times I twisted the question to try to get her to be a typical teenager and start telling me, you know, Lady Gaga or, you know, those type of people. She was giving me names like, you know, Laurie McKenna and Travis Meadows, and I mean, those were her. She was a songwriter fan, and she is a brilliant artist in her of herself, and I want her to get better.
Yeah.
Cool.
Much love to Ava.
Where do you see, I mean, it's growing exponentially, the UK Nashville connection. Where do you see that going in the next couple of years?
It's just got to get bigger and bigger. I mean, we have so many artists that want to come over to the UK now, and vice versa, we're getting some of the UK artists coming out here. I see more collaborations, but for songwriting as well as you know, actual sort of festivals and shows. I think it is just gonna keep growing.
In one of my prior lives, I did radio promotion, and it was servicing country music to UK stations as well as Europe and everything. And one of the things I always stressed with artists was, if you're going to release singles to the UK, you got to get over there and play. It's like any other, because so many artists now are seeing the UK as a new market where they can sell their product, but they have no intention of going over there. It's just like, let's try and exploit it. And you can't do that. Nor could you do that in your own country. No. If you're going to be marketing music to a market, then you have to follow that up.
You need to build that relationship, and I think it's, you know, you can't just come once and say, "Oh, I've been to the UK now." You have to keep coming back. So I take it back to William Michael Morgan. We've been asking for him to come for years. He came this year. I know there is already a request for him to come back from lots of places. So I think you've got to build on that career.
Guys like Billy Yates and Dale Watson have done that. You know, started out going and doing, you know, a couple of shows here and there, and then built it up and now they tour for months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even Casey Musgraves used to come over quite a lot. Early in her career, she would come over.
The Texas artists have been better at doing it.
Yes.
Yes, I mean Aaron Watson, for example, has done. I think he's done better in the UK. Than, obviously, not in Texas, but you know, outside of Texas in the USA, I think that the UK side of things has definitely been better for him.
And I think the UK is taking a turn. It's very much, we love a lot of the traditional artists. We love the Texas artists. We love the songwriters. If any of the festivals have a songwriter portion to it, that is normally people coming away saying, favourite part of the show.
One thing I found with Texas artists when I lived there was it was still, you know, I moved here in 2011, so 2007, 8, 9, 10, labels were still doing like a US release, but then you had to wait a couple weeks to be able to get it in the UK. And it made no sense, but you had these independent Texas artists who were accessible. You could reach out to them online on Facebook and Twitter and places like that, and they would talk to you and they would connect you to their music. So the whole Texas thing really took off in the UK.
Yes, definitely.
Kind of faster than anything else did.
But I think it's the interaction with the fans, and you know, as you say, the accessibility to music. You know, we hear something, we want to be able to buy it straight away. We don't want to be, oh well, we're releasing it, you know, in the UK 2 weeks later, a month later. And I think a lot of these artists that do so well are very good at their social media as well, and they do really interact, and you know, they want to come over, they build that rapport. So when they do come over, they've already got a huge group of fans that they know that they're going to be, you know, out buying their music, buying their merch, buying tickets.
Canadian artists are doing it well over there as well. TB is getting a lot of it.
Lindsay L is doing very well, and we had Brett Kissel over as well, and people were absolutely raving about him.
It's really great to see these artists taking off and building that audience, which is so important.
And I think, if this year, I think there must be probably 5 or 6 country music festivals. Before there's the C2C. There wasn't,
well, there were some really small,
or very, you know, kind of niche ones that were still very much about the line dancing, and that is still popular in certain areas, but that isn't what country music is about. Yeah.
I couldn't
They
believe it when I
are
moved there. I
something.
thought, because when I had left Canada, bars were really clamping down on line dancers because they come in, they take up the whole dance floor, don't
Not
drink.
drink very much, yeah.
So they confined them to like Monday nights. And so I thought, oh, finally, they're doing away with this. And then I moved to the UK, and you people will line dance to anything.
Yeah. There's also, I mean, definitely more up north.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played
Yeah.
a couple of the real like country
Yeah.
festivals, and the organisers tend to be very much for moving it forward and bringing it into what country is today.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you have a lot of the audience that go there. They want to do line dancing. They want to do trilogies where they basically
Yeah,
perform it, and it's a very like
they're
niche
very,
thing.
I think they're very different, and I mean,
Yeah, they
good
are.
luck to them. If they
Yeah.
enjoy that, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
as a secret, I used to teach line dancing back in the 90s in a little bar. I had my microphone and a bottle of beer. I would get confused sometimes. But that
Was
was
there video of that
I
anywhere?
hope not. But I
I
think
hope so.
that is, you know, let them enjoy that, and that is great.
Yep.
But the country music scene, and it really isn't country and western. You know, people are always like, "Do you like country and western?" I'm like, I enjoy that, but I work within country music. You know, whether you want to call it new country or, you know, everybody wants to name everything. I like it. It's good music.
But I think that's what's good with all the new festivals popping up, is that people are starting to see, especially in the UK, that country isn't country and western now, and that term is slowly, they're slowly moving apart from each other.
Yeah, and I think
people that don't.
what I love is that if you go to a concert here, back in April I went to see Garth Brooks, and there was probably 2-year-olds and 95-year-olds
Yeah.
there, and they all loved it. You're finding that now at country festivals there's a lot more younger people going. A few years ago it would have been 40s and above, but now, I mean, the teenagers, they're really, you know, getting into it as well, and I think it's great. It's seen as a family festival, which
Do you think the Shires had a lot to do with that? Because they were the first homegrown country duo to get onto the pop charts.
I think they do. I mean, it's a British thing, you know, as soon as somebody does well, let's just knock them down. So they get quite a lot of abuse, the Shires, but
I like them.
I think
they're
they
good.
have done such a great job. They have taken country music to people that thought that we did just listen to Achy Breaky Heart. So I think they've done a phenomenal job. But there needs to be room for more. There's others that are equally as good as them that need to be coming through now. It shouldn't be just the Shires. There should be others as well.
And they just opened for Carrie
I
Underwood
know.
in was
Amazing.
it London?
London,
Yeah.
Cardiff, Manchester, Glasgow.
I would say in terms of other UK artists kind of really being able to move up the ranks, is that from everything I understand, obviously with the UK-US thing, for US artists to come to the UK, it's so easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's very, very easy. And the other way, it's a lot harder. So you find that a lot of the UK artists tend to stay in like that little UK bubble. It's very hard to get out of it, not because they don't want to, but because things that are in place make it very hard. And I think that if the Nashville UK thing is going to expand, then I mean obviously I don't know how much say they could have on that, but I think something needs to change there if we want more UK artists to really start moving up, you know, without having to come and move to Nashville.
Well, I
We
think
shouldn't have to.
it's part of the problem too is the labels, because the Shires were signed to a Nashville label.
Absolutely.
And what I heard was, you know, somebody said, "Why aren't you breaking over here?" And they said, "Well, it costs a minimum $2 million to break an artist in the U.S., and we don't know if they're going to fly."
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
the money is a huge thing.
And I think at the end of the day, as much as we all love the music, it's a big business.
Yeah.
I mean, we can just see everything that goes on in the news at the moment. It's a huge business. We're talking millions and millions. So, you know, we just have to hope that, you know, that the record labels and that are doing us justice, which they're not always. I mean, you look at some of these artists. Aaron, what did you say? He was independent. You know, I mean,
the indies can fly under the radar and make it so, and likewise with British, primarily Americana artists are coming over here and touring and doing very well. But it's something unique to the Americana market.
Americana is huge in the UK. I'd say that's probably going to be
Bigger.
outgrowing country, and there is that, obviously there's that real link,
Right.
but you see definitely, like we have the Americana Festival, it's getting bigger and
Yeah.
bigger, and again, because a lot of it is about the songwriting, and there feels, I don't know, is there more honesty in it? I don't know. It's just the way it's kind of perceived.
Everybody
at the
that I
moment.
talk to, it's the Americana is still, like you said, very much focused on lyrics.
Yeah.
Where pop country sound isn't.
No.
It's more about the groove and the music.
I mean, I think there's room for all of it. People go, oh, I don't like this, it's not country music. If you look on any of the Facebook pages, whatever time of day, you will find an argument that's not country. I mean, I've kind of given up on trying to police it, but you know, to me, it's what you feel. You know, if you don't like something, we've all got our own opinions.
We were at a luncheon when Kenny Rogers was being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And somebody asked him, what do you think country music is? And I always kind of dismissed Kenny from the standpoint that I always saw him as a pop artist that had come in to country music. So I didn't really take too much he said seriously, but he said something that I thought was really smart. He said, country is what country people will buy.
Yeah.
And that's why you're seeing Kid Rock being popular in country music with that, you know, that kind of trailer park rock sound. And I didn't mean that as a slam, but that's kind of the style he does.
Yeah.
And it works for him. And that's why you're seeing people like Sam Hunt and the really R&B sounds coming in. Country people are buying it.
I think naturally, because country has grown so much,
Yeah.
you're always going to get branches. And when a lot of people do the whole that is in country, I always use the rock example.
Yes.
Because,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people are like, well, it has to be this to be country, but then you take like soft rock and then bands like Pantera and Megadeth, it's all rock.
Yeah.
But you would never, I mean, at some point that would have branched away from just being, here's what rock is, and now you've got two ends of the
And
spectrum.
even
It
within
just-
those rock genres, I mean, you look at metal. Metal has all these sort of, you know, it's got thrash and death and
Right.
speed metal.
I wrote a piece, my last piece that I wrote for Think Country, and sadly it just didn't take off. I wish it had, but I spent a lot of time on it, and it's called When I Think Country, I Think, because when we interview people, a lot of times we will ask them, when you think country, what do you think?
Mhm.
It's usually the last question that we ask them when we do an interview. And I attempted to answer that question of what country is, because we had actually had in recent weeks a lot of bickering and arguing about, you know, what country is and what it isn't, and some people were getting kind of nasty, and you know, we try to keep things, you know, like a nice debate rather than, you know, getting vicious. And so it's something I had been thinking about for, I don't know, a few months, about writing something like that, and then I would shelf it and, you know, put it away, and then I would start seeing the bickering again, and I'd go, maybe I'm gonna write it. And I actually sat down one Sunday morning, a couple Sundays ago, and I said, I'm gonna do this. And I did. And I thought I researched it pretty well to try to really have a very even argument. And I went through the history of what different types, as country evolved, and what it was. And it just didn't, it seemed like nobody read it, as the analytics that I looked at. And I don't know if people were afraid to read it because they didn't want to maybe see what it is in black and white. But really what it comes down to is just like what Amy was saying and what you were saying with rock. Obviously, Pantera does not sound anything like Elvis, but they're all considered to be rock. And it's the same with...
Nobody has a problem with that.
Right.
And nobody has a problem with that. And if you go back to the very beginning in the article of what, and again, you've got to go by what the recorded history is. Somebody was probably there before Jimmy Rogers, but Jimmy Rogers is considered to be the father of country music or the Carter family. I mean, they kind of run parallel, but Jimmie Rodgers is the father of country music. Jimmie Rodgers sounds nothing like Johnny Cash, and Johnny Cash sounds nothing like Merle Haggard, and Merle Haggard sounds nothing like Florida Georgia Line, but yet they're all considered to be country, and it's all really what your perspective is and what you think country is. But then it's when we started to have subgenres, you know, when we had bluegrass and when we had bro country, and but like Annette says, she doesn't want to start branching off in thing country.
Yeah.
She just wants it to be country.
And it's funny, I'll get into discussions with people about what is country. Johnny Cash, that's traditional country. Oh, really? Well, when Johnny came to town, he was seen as a rocker and nobody wanted anything to do with it.
I have that in my article. He was almost ran out of town.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And, you know, how far back you want to go? I mean, that's really, if you want to go back to traditional, then, you know, go back to Jimmie Rodgers. Don't be pointing at Johnny Cash. He wasn't.
I mean, sometimes I do listen to a song. I mean, I get sent, and I'm sure you do, I get sent so much music to listen to. And sometimes I listen to it and think, do they not get that it's think country, that it's going to be, you know, maybe they think they're country music. I don't know. I mean, there's some I listen to and I'm like, even I can't argue the fact that that is related to country in any which way, but somebody else might.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's very much about opinions, and I've never met a group of people more opinionated than country music fans.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, and as with anything else on Facebook, if you want to start an argument, post an opinion.
Oh.
Oh yeah. And it people just can't leave it alone. I mean, if you don't like it,
Don't listen to it.
don't listen to it.
It's
It's as simple as that.
But I think people have such a passion for country music. I think when you become ingrained in country music, a lot of people, some people it takes over their life. I mean, we have a Facebook page back in the UK, and I know people they've met and got married through that page. They have made lifelong friends, and it's all started with country music. I mean, if I look back from when I first came to Nashville in '95, I mean, there's people I met in the Wild Horse Saloon. My daughter now calls him Grandpa, but because of country music, I mean, it's changed my life, and I think it changes people's lives, so they're so passionate about it. So in one way, I applaud that music can make such a profound change into your life, but on the other hand, let's all chill out and enjoy it.
So what have you got in the immediate future for Think Country?
We've got a new kind of series called Nashville People. So we're very much focusing on people that work within the industry or around Nashville, but not particularly artists. So we're interviewing one of the international directors of Big Machine, and so we're talking to Leslie Fram and other people. So that's going to be quite interesting. And we're really expanding our Think Nashville. So we're just looking at, I don't know, the best place to get a coffee if you come to town. If you're coming to town, where would you go to get the best Mexican? Where would you go if you want to go to a gallery? Just so that people can get a whole understanding of that, as well as obviously continuing with the music.
That's great. Amy, you're firmly enhanced in creating your music here.
Yeah, it's going to be writing for a while, I think. That's exciting for me. Like, I've seen the scene here for artists against what it's like back home is very, very different. And I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a good or a bad different. It's just, there's a very different dynamic. And I definitely, you know, I've got to really get my feet firmly on the ground with it and get stuck in, but I'm really excited to see how that's going to go.
Patti, what have you got in the pipeline?
Actually, the pipeline right now is I have an interview that I did yesterday with great artist Travis Rice. You know him.
Yeah.
I've got to write that out. I actually started yesterday, right after I did it. Fantastic person and artist, writing that, and then I have a whole slew of them coming up. I have a book full of stuff.
Cool.
And that's, I say, stay tuned.
Ladies, thank you for being on the show today.
Oh,
Annette,
thank you for
thanks
having us.
coming all this way.
Just to see
Just
you
for
guys.
us.
Just to
That's
see.
it. She's
I
actually
came
flying
really
out
far,
after the
too.
interview.
Yeah, the limo
On
will
that
be
private
outside.
jet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it's been great having you on. We've got to do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you
On
very
one of
much.
your many trips to Nashville. Good luck with your new life here in Nashville.
Yeah.
And we always see each other.
I know. We bump into each other all the time.
Thanks for watching the Nashville Access Facebook show presented by Solis North Gulch Apartments. I'm Camo, and make sure you catch me on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 7 on Hippie Radio 94.5 here in Nashville. Chris Country, I'm all across the UK, coincidentally, on Sundays from midday now following Bobby Bones. And you can also catch me on 88.9 Tamworth Radio with Jody Crosby and John Wolf on Thursday mornings at 9:30. See you next time. And have a happy Independence Day if you're watching in the US. If you're watching in the UK, happy Thursday.